Hey guys, welcome to the daily analysis. It is October 1st, so happy October. Today we're going to cover a few different pairs. Mostly what I'm looking at is trying to kind of gauge when some of these pairs are going to break out of their consolidation. If you notice, the euro dollar is kind of consolidating right around the 50 level of the recent swing. Also, the pound yen that I've been talking about is struggling on a horizontal and trend line level. So, some different pairs struggling, and today I just want to look at those, kind of tell you what I'm expecting to happen, or what I want to happen anyway, and how I would manage the trade if it does break out in one direction or the other. So, that's basically what I'm going to cover today in the analysis. Before we get into that, I just want to check our news because that could obviously affect some of these channels and potentially create a breakout. So let's look at our news for tomorrow. And as far as news goes, we don't have a ton. A lot of odd news though. First of all, 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time is cash rate and also rate statement. So these two red tags should create quite a stir with the odd pairs. Then at 4:30 a.m. we have construction PMI, and the pound is another pair that's kind of struggling. So this could be a breakout potential for the pound. And then more odd news tomorrow evening at 9:30. So should be an interesting day as far as Australian dollar is concerned. A lot of red tagged events could drive that thing up or down to a significant level. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then, of course, the pound news. Notice that there's no U.S. dollar news. So U.S. dollar is kind of or should remain somewhat neutral tomorrow. And obviously, we'll see if that remains true by watching the charts tomorrow. But the main two things going on as far as news is concerned is the Australian dollar and the Great British Pound. Okay, let's also take a look at our terms quickly. And we show you these terms just to let you know that we're not registered or licensed to provide investment advice. This is purely for educational purposes. And Forex trading does carry a risk, and we're not responsible for the risk that you use in a given trade. Okay? If you need to pause that to read those through, go ahead. It's important that you do understand this because we're bound by government rules, and we want to be clear on that. So again, the first pair that I'm looking at here is the euro dollar, and it's been about 4 days that's been sitting right on this 50 level. As I zoom up, you can see that every day for the past 4 days we've had tails bouncing off the 50 fib from the recent swing low to high. So this is obviously a level that price is struggling at. Notice that it's right in between the 38.2 and 50 level. There hasn't been a close above or below in the past 4 daily candles. Each one has kind of bounced off the top and bottom and closed in between. So that's kind of an interesting setup right now because price is very tight. And of course, a breakout to either side should require some momentum to get through. And of course, we would expect some follow through because when a certain channel is established, especially on a pair like euro dollar that does like to move a good bit, normally the breakout carries some momentum and follow through with it. And so, of course, as traders, we want to be ready for that and ready to take advantage. Now, because this is a swing high or swing low to high, and it's moving up, and the pullback is into the 50 and it's been supported, my bias would be a breakout to the top and a trend continuation type of motion. And of course, I would enjoy that as a trader because then I have a very realistic target for a good risk reward ratio and everything else like that. If it breaks to the downside, we could still have a realistic target at 126.50 area. But a break to the downside to me does not show as much probability in being correct on the continuation because it's not with a trend, and also a lot of times you can get retraces even farther down before there is a new high. So to me, I like the idea of a breakout to the upside because I think trend continuation strategies by nature are higher probability than a break to the downside in a reversal motion. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking on the euro dollar. Very similar to some other pairs we're going to look at, but the euro dollar should be making a move soon because you don't expect too many bars to remain in this tight of a channel. If it's like this for 2 weeks, then we're really going to be on the edge of a breakout because the euro dollar just doesn't remain in a channel for that long typically. Okay, so it's not overextended right now as far as being in a channel. It's only been 4 days, but that's even for the euro dollar, that's a decent amount of time. So I'm thinking that it's not going to be too much longer until we get a good breakout for the euro dollar. Alrighty, let's take a look at the pound dollar too. Now the pound dollar is not quite the same thing. Instead of having kind of pulled back and been in a channel, it's rather just kind of not been able to make the reversal in the first place. So whereas the euro is at a 50 retracement, the pound hasn't made near as much ground to the downside. Now over the past 2 days, we've had very good bearish movement, but still we haven't made that steep break back to the downside like we saw with the euro dollar. Okay, so for me, the pound dollar is still kind of in that this channeling motion. Now, again, this doesn't look like much of a channel, maybe a downward channel. But what I'm saying is that I just haven't seen a steep continuation or a steep reversal motion that makes me think that this thing is really set on turning around yet. So with that said, I think that the news tomorrow could either show a continuation of this, or more likely, in my opinion, probably bounce it right back up into this level. I think that pound is just not ready to go down yet, based on what I'm seeing. So again, that's kind of my interpretation of it. Not really a solid, technical analysis on that. It's just kind of my interpretation of what's going on with price action right now. Again, this level that it's bounced off is a good level, so it does show serious resistance pushing it back down. And if we do get really bad news for the pound, we could get a strong momentum continuation of this reversal, which hasn't really shaped up as a strong reversal yet. So a lot of potential for the pound dollar to continue to the downside and really get down to maybe these lower levels here, which would be a great short opportunity. But to me, I'm just not really expecting that right now. I don't see that with the pound. I think the pound has been pretty consistent for a while here. So again, we'll see. It's going to be very interesting to see if these dollar trends are going to continue, or if the dollar is going to gain some strength and pull these things back down into lower prices. So the best I can do is just kind of guess as to what I think might be going on here. But the only thing that's really going to tell the story is price action, of course. So pound dollar is one that I think we'll need to wait and see, what the verdict is for a few more days potentially. Maybe tomorrow's news will give us that verdict by itself, but either way, it's a little bit of a waiting game for the pound right now. And speaking of waiting games, the odd dollar is forming a triangle motion too, which is another waiting game, because if this thing breaks out, we could get serious momentum up to the next level, which is a decent amount of pips. So the odd dollar is another one that's just kind of that waiting game where we'll see if this thing is trying to revert back down and get towards maybe the center lower prices here, or if this trend that's started to form here has just been taking a break and is actually going to continue. So that's totally up for debate based on what's going on here. And with all that Australian dollar news coming out both tonight and tomorrow, we might very well see a breakout pretty soon here. So that's another one that's a waiting game, hopefully not quite as long of a waiting game, and we should see an answer on that relatively soon, especially if that news has any kind of deviation. So keep an eye on that one. And another pair, of course, that's been struggling for a few days is the pound yen. And this is one that I showed you a while ago and looked to be set up pretty good for a long entry. I know that this small bar here really spoke continuation to me, and I was thinking, it's not the strongest bar in the world, but it is enough for me to believe that this thing's trying to make a higher high. So the verdict again on that is not made up, because we haven't seen any actual price movement. It's just kind of stayed right around that price. So the pound yen is another one where there's some news coming out tomorrow. There's some stuff going on, but it looks like everything is still on track for it to be moving up. It's still on top of that trend line. It's still on top of this horizontal support line here. So still things are set up to move up, but we won't know until price action either moves up or moves down. So another waiting game. Now, to me, I think that this is a long setup, even though it's not the prettiest thing right now. It's off a trend line. There is upward continuation. It looks long to me. It looks like it wants to go up. It wants to challenge this higher high and try to move up, but we just don't have the candlesticks to show that yet. So that's what I'm hoping for with the news and over the next few days. And another reason that I'm not so convinced that pound dollar is heading down is because I think that the pound yen looks so ripe for moving up. So that kind of conflicts with the pound dollar short. So that's the pound yen, another one that I'm looking at. Just another one that it's about waiting and seeing what price action is going to do. If there's any continuation to higher prices on the pound yen, say it goes up to 127 here, I would think that that's showing continuation and at least going to come and challenge the 128.8 area, because I can't imagine that it's going to sit on this trend line all this time, make its move up, and then revert right back down. That would be, not a very solid technical move. So assuming that it trades technically, if there is continuation, it should try to make a higher high, and we'll just wait and see on that one too. Okay, and then the last pair I wanted to cover today was this euro pound. So kind of interesting with the euro pound. We've been talking about this level and how it could be a decision point for the euro pound if it bounces through it. It could mean a continuation of the long downtrend. If it bounces off of it, we could establish that this uptrend might be for real. A lot of fake outs here, a lot of chop, which is no surprise. Oftentimes at a decision point or a major level, we get that to confuse people, to keep people out of good trades. So today we had probably our best bar in a week or so, where it actually made some ground up. Not only did it strongly bounce off this, but it did break back through this trend line that I've drawn here. So to me, that's instilling some confidence in the euro pound long, and I'm beginning to believe that maybe this euro pound's continuing up, trying to make a higher high and continue this up channel for an unknown time ahead. And so the euro pound is one that I think is looking like it's made a decision. The candle didn't finish super strong today and actually didn't eclipse the top level here, but still I think that there's some good potential with the euro pound there, and to me it's looking like this thing could move up pretty good. So the euro pound is the last pair for today, and to me looking like it's trying to make some ground while a lot of other pairs are just kind of shaking out. So again, the pound news will affect the euro pound as well, and it'll be an interesting situation there. Alright guys, thanks for stopping by for the daily analysis today. I hope this was helpful for your trading, and I'll talk to you real soon.